All right, guys, this story right here is incredible. I could not wait to share this story with you. And the number has gone up since this article came out, but let me walk you through it. So the Washington Post loses an eye-popping 200,000 subscribers in exodus that will, quote, batter the paper, says NPR reporter. Now, let me be clear. This came out a few days back. The last number I saw was 250,000 subscribers. In fact, by the time you're watching this, that may be up over 300,000 subscribers that they lost. Now, why did they lose these subscribers? It's very simple. You had the writers at the Washington Post already had written up an endorsement for Kamala Harris. They support Kamala Harris. And at the last minute, the billionaire owner, Jeff Bezos, stepped in and said, you are not releasing a Kamala endorsement. In fact, we are not doing any endorsements anymore. And you had a revolt. Some people left. Here, let me read this to you. The Washington Post has lost more than 200,000. Now it's over 250,000 subscribers this week after owner Jeff Bezos reportedly opted to block the newspaper's endorsement of Kamala Harris, citing two people with knowledge of the situation. NPR media correspondent David Folkenflik reported on Monday that more than 200,000 subscribers, around 8% of the newspaper's total subscriptions, now that's up over 10%, had dropped the newspaper, with the number continuing to grow after a planned endorsement of Harris was spiked. Quote, it's extraordinary in the 3 days since we first wrote about the decision by owner Jeff Bezos to block a planned endorsement of Vice President Kamala Harris by the Post editorial board, you've seen a series of resignations, Folkenflik told CNN anchor Jake Tapper on Monday. 2 columnists resigned, 2 editorial writers resigned, and we've also seen this sort of revulsion or outcry on social media. Well, it turns out to be real that over 200,000 people have canceled subscriptions to the Washington Post in just 3 days, and that figure is rising. Wow. Now, by the way, allow me to point out, Republicans do this all the time where they're like, we are going to boycott this company because they like gay people. Like, they always try to do these little, like, right-wing boycotts, and they usually fail in astonishing fashion, and then nobody ever brings it up again. This is the resistance liberals being like, oh, nah, son, it's on. You want to see a boycott? We'll show you a boycott. We'll show you how it's done. Losing over 10% of your subscribers, over 250,000 people. God damn, bro. God damn. And look, they did it to themselves, right? Because their whole thing was like, democracy dies in darkness, and we are going to hold the Trump administration accountable, and we are the truth tellers out here. And then they're like, Jeff Bezos is like, I don't want to lose my tax cuts and my subsidies and my government contracts, and I don't want to make Trump mad. I don't want any retribution or revenge against me. So now I would make sure to stay neutral and pretend like it's some highfalutin ass idea of like, oh, I'm just sticking to journalistic principles. More on that in a second. So anyway, this guy continued. It's an astonishing reaction. You know, usually you see a protest like this rise to the level of a few hundred, or at times in a moment of great outcry to a few thousand. This is, of course, 100 times greater, and it's something that will really batter that newsroom and its morale after a series of deflating moves, not least of which because that newsroom has been involved in covering so many instances of wrongdoing and alleged illegalities by former President Trump and his circle of associates. But also that editorial page, which is run separately, has made such a clarion call of the idea that Trump is himself a threat to the American democratic experiment. And yet here they are, just days before this election, saying, we're not going to make an endorsement at all. Who did you think your subscriber base was, right? Like, what do you think? There's some gun-toting, NRA card-carrying type dude from rural America with a Trump bumper sticker who has a Washington Post subscription? Like, obviously the people who read the Washington Post are mostly resistance liberals, usually middle class or upper middle class, living in cities or in the suburbs. Like, this is your clientele. Right? And the writers have made clear, like, where they stand on this stuff. And now at the last minute to do the rug pull, which is what Bezos did, Jesus Christ. Semaphore Media editor Max Tanney reported on Monday that the LA Times also lost more than 7,000 subscribers after they opted against an endorsement of Harris. While the Washington Post opted not to endorse Harris for president, its humor columnist, Alexandra Petrie, did endorse Harris in an article titled, "It Has Fallen to Me, the Humor Columnist, to Endorse Kamala Harris for President." Jesus Christ. Now, so Jeff Bezos loves money. He does. And he sees this backlash. He sees this reaction. So look at this. Jeff Bezos writes rare op-ed defending Washington Post non-endorsement amid subscriber exodus. Okay, so here, I'll read you some snippets. Here's what he says. Presidential endorsements do nothing to tip the scales of an election. No undecided voters in Pennsylvania are going to say, I'm going with newspaper A's endorsement. None. What presidential endorsements actually do is create a perception of bias. Oh, yes. Yes, Jeff. So really, you're being harder on Trump by not endorsing Kamala. Yes, Jeff. That's great argument, buddy. This doesn't come across like weaselly, cowardly bullshit to everybody reading it. I'm sure that one's going to convince people. That's literally the point he's making. The point he's making is like, actually, I'm even tougher on Trump because I don't want to create a media bias against him and feed the beast. So, like, I'm more anti-Trump than you are, bro. That's what I am. God, the billionaire is high on his own supply. Holy shit. A perception of non-independence. Ending them is a principled decision, and it's the right one. Eugene Meyer, publisher of the Washington Post from 1933 to 1946, thought the same. And he was right. By itself, declining to endorse presidential candidates is not enough to move us very far up the trust scale, but it's a meaningful step in the right direction. I wish we had made the change earlier than we did, in a moment further from the election and the emotions around it. That was inadequate planning and not some intentional strategy. He goes on to say, I would also like to be clear that no quid pro quo of any kind is at work here. You know you're in a good spot when you have to say something like that. Let me be clear. There was no quid pro quo of any kind whatsoever. I just want to be clear about that. Hey, I'm not a criminal. I am not a criminal. Everybody needs to know I'm not a criminal. No, I did not piss in the Gatorade. I did not piss in the Gatorade. Stop saying I pissed in the Gatorade. My shirt says I did not piss in the Gatorade, and you're asking me a lot of questions that my shirt already answers. Stop. I didn't piss in the Gatorade. Like, bro, obviously everybody reading this is going to go, oh, there's a quid pro quo. Like, of course they will. And by the way, was there? Absolutely. Look, I told you what it is. He wants his subsidies. He wants his tax cuts. He wants his government contracts. He's afraid Trump is going to win. He probably is convinced Trump is going to win. And so what he's doing here is, hey, I'll be cool. I'll be cool if you'll be cool. Hey, I handcuffed my own newspaper from endorsing your opponent, bro. So we're good, right? We're good. I could still get those government contracts, right? God fucking damn it. Billionaires are the worst. Holy shit. He continues, neither campaign nor candidate was consulted or informed at any level or in any way about this decision. It was made entirely internally. No, Jeff. No, it was not. You made the decision. Internally, your writers were like, this is not a tough call for me. I support Kamala. They support Kamala. We're going to support Kamala. And you're like, no, I'm not going to allow you to do that. That's what happened. So you pulled the authoritarian boss card. That's what you did. Dave Limp, awesome name, the chief executive of one of my companies, Blue Origin, met with former President Trump on the day of our announcement. I sighed when I found out because I knew it would provide ammunition to those who would like to frame this as anything other than a principled decision. Who are you fucking kidding? You greedy billionaire prick. Raise your wages, you asshole. But the fact is, I didn't know about the meeting beforehand. Even Limp didn't know about it in advance. I have to say, this excuse is rather limp itself. The meeting was scheduled quickly that morning. There is no connection between it and our decision on presidential endorsements, and any suggestion otherwise is false. Bro. There was no quid pro quo. Yeah, my boy met with Trump, but that's totally irrelevant. And this was a principled decision, bro. Now, here's the thing. Let me go back to that first point. He says, presidential endorsements do nothing to tip the scales of an election. No undecided voters in Pennsylvania are going to say, I'm going with newspaper A's endorsement. None. So to respond to that point, bro, that's the principled decision that should have been made. It's not about like, hey, the paper is going to endorse Kamala because we like genuinely think it'll help or whatever, right? It's more about the writers support her. They do. So it's more honest for them to be like, yeah, we want her over Trump. That's the principal decision. Even if it moves 0 people, even if it moves some people in the other direction, right? Wouldn't matter. It's a matter of like basic transparency and honesty. And who in their right mind thinks what? A New York Times op-ed writer? Well, I guess there's some like Brett Stevens or whoever the fuck. I don't know if he still writes there. There's some idiots there who wouldn't support Kamala and probably would support Trump. But like, be upfront, be honest. Most of the writers you have over there are going to support Kamala. If you had a vote on it, it would probably be like 80% of them support Kamala. So it's just weaselly all around. And again, the main reason is Jeff Bezos cares about his profits. That's the bottom line. Jeff Bezos wants to make more money. He wants his subsidies. He wants his tax cuts. He wants his government contracts. And he knows I'll get on Trump's bad side if I do this. So I'm going to hold the paper back. And look, this goes to show you, we have a media cesspool in this country. It truly is a media cesspool. You have corporate media, which has every bad incentive in the world, big money advertisers paying them, people on air, or just like basically news actors who tell the establishment verified version of events. You, of course, have hack right-wing media like Fox News, Democratic Party media like MSNBC. The local news is horrible. Don't even get me started on that with their crime panic that they do 24/7. And usually the bright spot in all of media, for a while, it was new media, independent media, because it felt like something new and people were really speaking their mind. Now it's just new corporate media. There is no independent media. It's new corporate media. They have the same bad incentives, take the same kind of money, are just as bad at their jobs as anybody in mainstream media. But the one exception to media that was good was usually print media, right? A lot of the information we get on this show comes from print media. And to be fair, a lot of the straight news sections in print media are good. They just give you information, right? But this is like certainly the op-ed portion of the Washington Post and others now. You have billionaires exerting direct influence over them. And so now the question is, well, in what other areas are they going to exert influence, right? In what other areas? When there's another giant tax cut bill for the rich that comes up, are you going to now fire people who want to call a spade about that and bring in people who will defend tax cuts for the rich and lie about it? What about when it comes to deregulation? Are you going to fire pro-regulation writers and bring in people who support deregulation? Now everything is tainted, and it should be. And you know who knows that better than anybody else? Probably the writers who are pissed off about this and who just got handcuffed. But yeah, I mean, people are going to leave because you built a brand and you were lying about it. And now it was the old rug pull, and you did the old switcheroo, and it's all because Jeff Bezos wants profit. So by the time you're watching this video, it might even be over 300,000 people that have unsubscribed from the Washington Post. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.